Krishan Batra to talk about the procurement strategy framework and the big picture approach. Please put your questions in the chat box and we will take it at the end of the session. Over to you, Mr. Batra. Thank you.
Many thanks again, Pamela. So before I proceed my presentation, I want to again thank Ms. Anna Vilogoska for sharing her insight and sharing her time to join with us. Okay, friends, now the topic for the session is procurement strategy framework. Before I go into this, let me also tell you guys the good news is so far 4,681 people have registered for this program and covered around 151 countries. So that shows the importance of subject on procurement strategy. Well, friends, the topic for this session is procurement strategy framework. Now, three words. Procurement, you all know, buying goods, services. Strategy means something is a long term. And the framework is holistic understanding. Before I reach strategy, how do I achieve it? So there's a framework. And we are also going to talk about the big picture approach. When we talk about big picture, one is that we do for our own sector. Okay, guys, I'm working in X organization and I'm working in this government around. I come with my strategy. But then I find suddenly there are geopolitical issues around. There's a climate issues around. The old system doesn't work. I have to change so I need to have a big picture approach when I design my strategy. Keep in mind, strategy is not static. That's why when we visit around any company as a consultant, we always ask them, guys, when this whole strategy was made around. If it is more than 5 years, it's a guide time for change. I won't have said same thing 10 years back. Now in the last few years, the changes are so abrupt. As I said to you, the word is becoming VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, and now it's moving into the Bani word. So that shows you need strategy to be also dynamic. So that's what we call on the big procurement, big picture approach around. And let me see what we plan to cover up in this session. So the key takeaways for this session. So I have around 45 minutes. I'll take around 40 minutes and 5 minutes, 6 minutes. I'll take up the question, whatever you put on the chat box. So Pamela will share with me and I'll be very happy to answer. The very first one is the journey of procurement and current procurement landscape. What has been the journey of procurement for the last roughly say 100 years? And what is the procurement landscape today? What is procurement strategy framework? The next I want to touch on the need for the big picture approach. As I said to you, the word is dynamic. Strategy also has to be dynamic. You can't stick with the old, which was designed 40 years back or 30 years back. That's why the World Bank came in 2016, a new strategy framework. Again, creating and developing procurement. How do we create it? It looks very good. And I am very proud to say I have worked around 10 companies worldwide. So when I joined UN at a headquarter level, I went as a director. My first job was to get the strategy in place. So I'll tell you and share you my experience around how we develop the strategy. World-class procurement framework. Technological advancement. The word is coming with AI. You're all hearing around. So what does it mean for us? Some people are scared that this will take away our job or this will do this. I'll say it will empower us. What challenges and the future trends around. So in broadly, if I say around, the whole story revolves around cost optimization and adding value. Now the journey of the procurement over 100 years. It has evolved. The first time the word came in 1862 called materials man. There's a book actually. There's a term called materials man. So that means this term has been there. If you look at the Roman Empire, if you look at the pyramids, I mean there was a procurement. Maybe the focus was more on the material side, but it's evolved significantly over the last century. Firstly, if I say of 20th century beginning, 1920 to 40, very manual. Still also many companies are doing manually. Mid 20th century, if we talk around 50s to 60s, standardized process. People came with SOPs. Guys, if you want to make a requisition, here is a way. If you want to make a purchase order, this is the way. If you want to get the payment, this is the process. So people came with the process. And it was 20th century, 70 to 90, ERP. And I had the privilege of implementing ERP in all my 160 countries offices around in 2005. So I was very proud to implement this. But then later on, I found after 5 years, it doesn't serve the purpose of the procurement. It serves the purpose of the organization. But still, when I look at the organization, procurement activities around, there's not to be done. In the turn of the millennium, if you look around, e-procurement came. Then we had recent years from 2010 to 2020, cloud-based AI, all those things around. Now, the traditional procurement, if you all know, starts from the if I go with a straight line approach, no strategic, very tactical, very operational procurement, which even in the public sector, still it is going this way. Or if I go 5 years back, worldwide was like that. Need recognitions, purchase requisitions, review the request, you get the budget approvals, quotation request, negotiation and contract. In public sector, negotiation was not welcome in the good old days, but now I think in the new guideline has come up. Receive goods and services, three-way matching, invoice approval, record. Very traditional mechanical process. So if somebody joins procurement, they say, guys, here are the steps, you just follow them. That's why if I go back many years back, many people with good education will not love to go into procurement. But today I would say it is one of the top important professions around. It's a key pillar of supply chain. So when I passed out from the US after my MBA, I found supply chain was one of the top carriers. And I moved into that direction. And I enjoyed after that. Now let's see at the current landscape. With increased disruption, I would say procurement is starting to get recognition as a major contributor to the company. It's very understood. If I talk from the private sector, 40 to 70%. If I'm in the auto sector, around 70%. And if you are the CEO of the company, you want to make a change, you have to look at procurement and supply chain. You can't ignore it. You are in a pharma, maybe around 50%. IT sectors, around 40%. Public sectors, GDP, when I look around 20%, 25%, depending on which country you are. And major project, if you talk around any X project, 70% is procurement, or maybe even more than 70%. So it's very procurement intensive. And we all know procurement is also very labor intensive. So chief procurement officers are becoming increasingly important in members. So it is a key pillar of supply chain management, as I said to you in the very beginning. That means there's a big need of change is required around. Let's look at the procurement strategy. So that so far I've given you the background part, the context part. Now, if you look at the strategy, every organization, whether it's a government, whether it's a company, everybody has a strategy at the top. And those government also have objectives, companies also have objectives. And even if I say public sector companies, they also have an overall objective. What do we want to achieve at the end of the day? Then based on that, we make a procurement strategy. And then based on that, in a procurement, I might have 10 categories or 20 categories. Those who are falling category management. Those who are not falling category, they will have a very broad, old-fashioned procurement process. Now, based on the category, then the next category means one will be dealing with IT procurements, one will be dealing with services, one will be dealing with professional services. So everybody specializes in something. I know in the good old days, they would say one procurement person can do all. No, jack of all, you can't. Today, procurement is becoming a profession. Certainly, you need procurement skills, but you also need subject knowledge also. If I'm buying IT equipment or IT systems, I don't have a foggiest idea how IT system specifications are written, I can't do a good justice. So this is where we are coming around. The last is operational procurement. Now, what is procurement strategy? First, let's look at the word procurement strategy. We use this word very commonly. First question we ask, what is your strategy to do this? It's basically a roadmap. It's a long-term plan to acquire necessary resources and investment. Then the next thing comes around is, it depends on several parameters. You can't say one size for all, no. If I move from one company to another company, I feel I can do same thing now. Since I moved around 10 organizations, including public sectors and private sector, every company has a different culture. So you cannot come with exactly same mode of operations. The risks are different. If I'm in a pharma sector, different risk. If I'm dealing with public sector, my risks are different. I mean, auto sector is being different risk. My budget, my timeline. Some people work on lean approach around. No inventory at all. Some says, guys, let's pile up the inventory. Cost of ownership. So those factors affect the developing of strategy. And again, I want to emphasize strategy is dynamic. It's not static. Now, aim of strategy is mainly focused on cost effectiveness and expanding the organization organically. So there are two growths. One growth could be that you buy many companies, acquire companies, merge many companies and grow. Second is you grow on the same product line or some related product line through cost effectiveness. Framework of procurement strategy includes, so when we talk about a framework, so strategy we all know by now. So the framework part is a holistic understanding. What is the vision? What's the mission of the organization? What time frame we have kept around? What tactical plans we have? If this does not work, what do we have a choice? We all went through it in COVID-19. If one delivery was not coming around, then the question is, you're not going to stop the work. Then say, guys, how do I manage? And I'm buying from a company, the company has caught a fire, a company is buying a raw material, the raw material is under flood, or it's closed down. So how do I manage those tactical plans around ways to grow? So I'm sure in the last 2 years, many of us have learned who are in the procurement, new ways to manage it, new ways to govern the procurement. Now the framework of the procurement strategies, the very top level, I would say, strategies statement of purpose. Why are you doing this? If anybody asks me a question, what are you doing in this business? So I have to show my purpose, I have to show my objectives, desired results. What do you want to achieve at the end of the day? What time frame you have? Every project which you have, whether in the government, whether in the public, whether in the private, you have a project activities around, time frame is there. Then coming the tactical plan part, how will we approaching and implementing this? Strategy looks very nice, very impressive. So I remember the one strategy which I made for the UN family, the UNDP. In 1999, I developed it. And by the time ERP came, I said, throw it away, make a new one. So we have to do that. The Myers, this is very, very important. If supplier is doing a good job or a bad job, now everybody talks of supplier relationship. Nobody talked of it in the good old days. The word was CRM, customer relationship management. Now SRM, even in the public sector, even if you look at the World Bank, new framework around, SRM is there. So the SRM in the private sector is very popular, it's picking up. In the public sector also it's coming around. So the question comes, before I do SRM, I need to measure the performance. Should I have a long-term agreement? I had a chance to work on it, even in the public sector. It goes back to the beginning of 90s. We used to buy a lot of computers, tables, furniture. I said, guys, why we are doing same thing again and again? Can't we have a long-term agreement for 2 years? We used to buy a lot of vehicles around, so why can't we have an agreement for 2 years? Fix up the price, build up the relationship with supplier. So you need KPIs, key performance indicators, service level agreements. We had built even in those days, I can say around in beginning of 2000, we had SLAs, we had KPIs. I had around 25,000 suppliers worldwide. I could easily see their performance. How are they performing on delivery? How are they performing on price? How are they performing on quality, quantity, and after sales service? And computer will generate a message to them, guys, you are lacking on this. And those who are doing very good, they became our relationship partner. So, so this is where we need to come with the framework. Now, when we talk of the vision of the organizations, I think it may help you some way. What are you trying to achieve? What is your procurement vision and mission? How will it be implemented? What are the best companies doing? What tools and services are needed? How will success be measured? How does all this fit into the problem? I think these visions are very, very important around in terms of delivery. I remember a company I visited. It was in India, Bhopal. I said, guys, how much time you take from requisition to purchase order? I did the calculation, it was 40 days. I said, when do you want the goods? Within 7 days. So guys, the company takes 40 days and they want delivery from the supplier in 7 days. That shows there's a big gap in our vision of the procurement, or in our process around, or in our wastage of process around. So that's what we need to do around. Now here is the one strategy, different approaches. I will touch on it. I'm not saying one size for all. One approach which is used very simple way. I say, guys, all my items I want to do my spend. If you see the vertically in the center, all purchase item. I might be buying 30,000 varieties of goods, services, or even SKUs. I do the spend analysis. I say, guys, do spend analysis for me. And then based on that, category part. And I had a tough time when I started around the spend analysis in 86, 87 for my 160 country offices. Everybody was speaking three languages, English, French, Spanish, but when we want to compile the data, very tough. Then we came with the United Nations SPSC, Standard Product Standard Classification. It is my baby and I build it up and used by now most of the ERP organizations. So category planning I can do from there. I have a cost map for each one. So this used to be the very traditional strategy element. Go with the category approach. Then based on the category, I'll say, guys, I will use strategic sourcing for some item where I've got limited supplier. But then where I've got a big number of suppliers, I'll do competitive process. Where I've got a risk around, again, I'll go with a relationship. I've got only one supplier. Why should I do the bidding worldwide? What for? I'll go with the supplier relationship. So different approaches we came around based on spend. So spend was the driving thing around. So this was the very beginning when I started around. Now, why develop strategy? The strategy is a pillar of effective innovation and CSR. Reflects the mission, vision, and aim of the organization. Provides a framework for the team. And this question I do ask all the time whenever I visit, because every month I do 2-3 visits to various companies, whether on a consultancy or on a training. I said, guys, tell me what are your strategies? What drives you to make a decision? Yes, you have a big manual, but what else is driving you to make a proper decisions around? So that's where we focus on, guys. Helps to ensure the cost reduction at values, opens the door for opportunity and improvements. This strategy is known for minimizing the delay and speeding up the supply chain process. The purpose of strategy is not to police the process. If you're thinking that we're going to police the process, we have got a 300 pages manual Procurement people will only read those pages which they know what are the steps. 300 pages are used by the audit people to question you, why didn't you do this? And I had a chance to change those pages around. I said, guys, make it smaller, make it more meaningful. So that means that's what we look around. Why do you need strategy? The very first thing is you want visibility. If my framework does not allow me visibility on my demand side, visibility on the supply side, I may lose the bus. Cost efficiency through strategic sourcing, better contract delivery and coverage, and good relationship, supplier relationship, quality management, product development, improved customer experience. If customer can know sitting on corner, if I connect from supplier to customer, maybe 100 players in between, customer knows what is the status of my things. I may use the tower, control towers or whatever. So customer knows the latest thing, what is happening. It's just like Amazon experience. If that experience is available to them, that's the purpose of strategy. And ensures compliance. Anything which is transparent, no hidden agenda, is pure transparent, end-to-end. Compliance will be much more. So fewer errors, sustainable development goals. So after the Paris declarations in G20 also, sustainable. Everybody is now trying to talk around net zeros, less carbon footprints, cut down the carbon footprints. So this is where I think is also becoming very emphasis around. So you and me, when we buy, are we looking around energy consumption of the products? Are we looking around the product can be recycled? Is it going back to the Mother Earth to damage it? So we need all that studies around on this. Increase supplier diversity. So in this case, we have a supplier, some are very big, they control the whole world. Then there are small companies, startups, or some minority women entrepreneurs around. We need to focus them as well. So you need to come up with your own strategies based on the government guidelines or whatever. So you could add much more. The need for the bigger approach. Big picture approach, when I say around, I only meant was the word is getting through disruption. Changes are happening too fast. And even a global economy, if you see now, is around 2.7%, 2023, 1.1% advanced economy. So this is the weakest growth since 2001. Word of inflation, rising interest. So that means we have to look at the strategy on this parameter. I can't make a strategy in silos. If you think that I can make in a silo my strategy without looking at these parameters, you're missing a bigger picture. You need to reassess, redesign the tactics to manage fluctuating cost. Components of big picture certainly is planning, technologies, risk management, and supplier management. So this word has become very important around. I remember the time when I came out from the college, 72, 70 from IIT when I came. We used to talk about supplier was like a road doormat. Now nobody talks about doormat. They're very important to you. Here comes another one approach of developing strategies. You have a direction strategy. What type of strategy? What type of organization you have? If you change the strategy, your organization structure also has to change. You can't say, okay, my organization structure remains same, my culture also is same, and I'm coming with a new strategy. The strategy has to blend with organization and culture, or you change the organization. If your organization is not digital friendly, then don't talk about digital in your strategy. They won't listen it. They will have no trust on that. Management process here. Performance management. How do you manage the performance part without having, again, data coming to you? If data is coming through spreadsheet, it takes months. I also started with spreadsheets. In 90s, 92, I remember the time, we used to collect the data. It used to take us 1 month before I get the report for all my country office. Now with the press of a button with the dashboard, you can get that. Work processes. So this is another approach of creating a strategy around. I'm just touching with different approaches around. Another one could be for a traditional company, if I say, they go with the spend analysis. Then they look around, where is my money going? Who are the suppliers? Maturity assessment. Then they see, guys, how is the maturity of my procurement? The very first maturity is the cycle time. To get a small value item, it takes you days, 40 days, and delivery you want in 7 days, then your maturity level is too poor. Better change it. Organization alignments, human capitals, supplier strategies, risk management. So you look at all these parameters around, including the KPIs, key performance indicators. Then you can say, guys, I need this change, and then you make a strategy based on it. So this is very traditional approach, which can be done around. Another approach could be very simple another way, only 7 steps. Your current status. Sit down as an expert, you say, guys, show me the status of what type of category item I buy. What do I do? What process is there? How much time I do? How many approvals are required? How many signatures are required? And then come to engage the stakeholders. And call all the stakeholders to change them. You can't change alone. Align the strategies, define procurement policies, create. And in this one I used for my low value item, very rightly. I moved from Denmark to US and I was going as a director there. So then when I said, guys, and I wanted my business card, which was costing that time $20 for 200 pieces. And to get those business card, there were 14 steps. Then I did the costing of all the steps around. It was coming around in 1999, I can say. It was around $90. The item of $20, I'm spending $90 in the process to ensure compliance. And that's the time I came with the concept of engage stakeholders. I said, guys, this is what is happening. We need to define our low value items, for which I will have a different process. And everybody agreed, the finance guy. I said, we don't have to just become police ourselves. We need to see around which are low values, what process we have. Earlier, we had same process for all. Whether I'm spending $1 million, whether I'm spending $25, process was same. So we need to come with that strategy. Now, another approach, which public sector, which again I'm taking from the World Bank and others which they've done, demand management. It's a very wonderful tool which had come up in 2016. Demand means planning, procurement plan. Procurement plan earlier was not given. I've got 40 projects on irrigations in a country, but I don't combine the plans around. Maybe there are some items common, category concepts around. If I'm doing 40 projects in a country, and there are some items which are common, can I combine them together? Category and sourcing managements around, contract management, supplier relationship management. Since I do some program for the World Bank on this SRM contract management, I cover it. But then I see it's a big change in the mindset. I'm not saying fully on the ground level, but still there's a big mindset change. And you will be hearing again Mr. Vinay in the evening. So he's the man behind this, who was the director for the public procurement in the World Bank. Compliance and risk, people, the processes and systems and technology. So this is the way I look around. If I see from the public sector, this is the changes are coming in again. Elements of public procurement, demand as explained to you. That means there has to be plan. I will not touch it until I get the plans. Category sourcing managements around. Contract managements around. Where to do administration, where to check the negotiation, where I'm failing it around. SRMs and compliance and risk management. If there are risk part, which in the good old days people never worried about this part, but now the risk is also part of it. So there are good checks and balances for that. That's the way I would look at it. Aligning the procurement with the organization goals, implementing the framework. Making a framework is good. You made a beautiful design of the building. Now converting the design into the real building and the real policies, we used to call in the good old days, a framework will have 3 P's: policy, procedures. First thing will be, 4 P's: principles, policy, procedures, and practices. So starts from the principle. Then we have policy based on the principle. And then based on the policy, we have again procedures around. Then we have practices around. I mean, practice could vary depending on the type of item and goods I'm buying. Measuring and evaluating success. You might have done a beautiful framework, looks good on paper, but when we were implementing it, as I said to you, one size doesn't fit all, different organization, different cultures, for whom you're doing, there may be resistance for that. So you need to come with the KPIs. And KPIs have to match with that culture and organization. World-class procurement, if you say, we're looking at executional level, operational level, strategy. Now, strategic level, maybe 10% people. I remember the time when I started my first career with Tata's. I was in the design side, but I could see in procurement we had around 10% people in strategic level. 60 to 70% were all execution and firefighters. Day in, out, they were running and getting the goods around. So we were more on the operation side and execution side, so more on the firefighting side. But now we want to turn this whole pyramid upside down. Have more people on strategic. So that's change is required. And operational part could be automated to some extent. Now, tips to build a world-class procurement strategies. Professionalize the procurement functions. So that is where we need around. In the good old days, it was okay, guys, have a degree and just hire it. Or somebody is free, some other department, move them into procurement. I think those days are gone. Procurement has become a profession. So when I say it's a profession, then you need a basic understanding and good education and skill of that. You need a knowledge, you need skill in that subject. So we don't see the guy hire the manager who can manage suppliers and stakeholders. So that means if you're managing a good manager, the guy who understands supplier, who understands stakeholder relationship, good communication skill, and is a strategic thinker. So the skill sets are changing. Don't sweat the small stuff. Example, I gave it to you, the business card, which I was trying to buy, costing $20 and going through 14 steps. And if I look at the money and the cost which is spent on 14 steps was around $90. So don't sweat on the small stuff just to ensure compliance. So you need to come with a better benchmark. That's what I would call. See technology as an enabler. Technology as an enabler is a wonderful thing because very first time I got involved with EDI standards developing when I was in Geneva. So EDI standard, then later on I've seen through ERP. And now we are seeing AI, we are seeing others. They're all enablers. They're not a threat. They make you smarter. So collaborate for strategic benefit. If you want to get a strategic benefit, you have to collaborate. You can't work in silos in a procurement. You need to collaborate with supplier, collaborate with your stakeholders in-house. Listen to them as well. So that's where it comes importance around. The last, again, I'll say, emphasize the benefit of risk and control. Certainly, risk management is very important. And then we have to work it around which risk I need to manage, which risk I can ignore. So you need to have different approaches for different risks. Some risks you can't avoid. You need to mitigate them. Some you can avoid, they're very minor risks. If it comes, you will manage it. But you can't put all risk on the time. The time is the solution. No, my friend. So you need to divide the risk depending on probability, what type of risk it is. Next comes the quality of the good procurement strategy. If I say, what are the qualities of a good procurement strategy? First thing is strategic thinking. So if somebody comes to me with that, I'll say, guys, what are the strategic issues in this we have taken care of? Operational excellence. And operational excellence can come through, I would say, again, robotic process automation, through AI, through analytics. Without that, you can't do operational excellence. Result-oriented and technologically enabled. So that's what we're looking around. Technological advancements. If you look at over the basic ERP, to me, ERP also looked big ones. So when I was talking about Miss Anna Vilogoska, she was involved with IT system. My first IT system was ERP. And we were spending around $75 million, big money. I had to spend a lot of time to understand it. How do I evaluate them? Which one is good and which is bad? And I was very proud to implement ERP, but now I find for procurement is a pain point. It's very good for the organization, enterprise, resource planning, put all the factors together. But did it serve the purpose for ERP procurement? I'll touch on that part soon. Generate technology roadmap, digital technologies, technology roadmap, again, process reengineering. If you're thinking of any change, don't use your old process which are outdated. I know some people did in those times, even when we were doing ERP. Some people are very complacent with X process around. I said, no. If you're going with ERP, spending too much money, change the processes around. Source to pay, e-procurement tool sets, technology enablements. So this is where I would say. Here, this is the one I shows you very clearly. In 70s, I had a chance to work in Tata's and MRPs. ERP, when I moved to the Europe and US, we were doing ERP. And this is where I'm saying ERP is a wonderful tool, still required, I'm not questioning. But the next step has come with e-procurement. And now it's come e-marketplace also. Government of India has done e-marketplace, which is called GEM. So with ERP, then we're going to e-procurement. We're using reverse auction, all those tools around. But once I got an E, I got all the whole end-to-end. Today, what is happening in ERP, you make a requisition in ERP, you make a purchase order in ERP, but between the acquisition and purchase order, the sourcing part is all in your emails. There's no transparencies. We want one platform end-to-end internet. So my sourcing activities are also there. My contract management is also on that. So that means even if you're sitting far off away on holidays, you should go on the system and see end-to-end. Customer can also see where is the status. So that's where we need to put it. So once I've got E, electronic, I have the data. The data is not to keep a storage. The data has to be processed. Data is just like a crude oil. I have to process, and that's where the procurement 4.0. We're talking industry 4.0. Industrial Revolution 4. If procurement has to become 4, your mobiles have become digital, but your process also has to become digital. And digital means we're talking of smart procurement. So that's where the journey has to do. Many companies are moving into 4. So that's where the trend is moving. The challenges which we have, supplier selection, negotiation and contracts, risk management, all are becoming in the life cycle of procurement, still big challenges around. Review and continuous improvements. So we certainly need a big improvements. The use of Kaizen, again I will say that. I remember the time when we were working in the factories, the Tatas stood, I worked around in the factories, in the US also. Kaizen was very popular. Kaizen, good change. Or you could say it's a continuous improvement. How many of us in procurements are doing brainstorming to change our processes? Somebody else writes in a sitting in a different department who doesn't know our process. They write the process for you. I remember the time when in the UNDP I said, guys, all your audit people should work first in the procurement, then become the audit people. So there has to be change, the process improvement. So this is where we're talking of Kaizen. I mean, if you feel your process has a lot of wastages, you need to change. Now, this is where the whole story is coming, and the procurement is dividing into two parts, and the private sector is going very fast. Public sector also has started around, and the government still, I know it's coming through GEM. So upstream, downstream. Upstream means I'm making long-term agreements based on my spend. Downstream means those who want to buy, immediately they can use those suppliers and place an order. It's happening through GEM as well. So this is where I think we have to move. So procurement is not one circle, two parts. Upstream will become strategic and operational. I know in the good old days people said prices are changing. How can you have fixed prices? Europe does, everybody does framework agreements. So you could come with some parameter to adjust the prices. This is the way trend is going. No more price. I think you heard already the chief guest. Price is not the only parameters. Cost. Then you came to the total cost of ownership. Now even we're talking of the life cycle cost after including how much damage we are doing to the earth. Strategic sourcing. So when I came to India in 2011, I could see strategic sourcing was picking up. Today we do every month 1 or 2 programs on strategy. Still category management is beginning. I know in the real, in the production side, still category management is picking up in a big way. And the last is value. If you're in a supply chain, then certainly category management is very popular there. And otherwise, in the production also is good. Another thing which I can say, the trends which is happening around to drive the strategy part, 20 years back was price. So your strategy was all revolving around price. 3 years back before COVID, adjust COVID, cost, risk, value, innovation. You want innovative products. If supplier can give me innovative product, then yes. And lastly, I'm going with the security of supply, mitigate the price, and mitigate this. So you can imagine around the parameters of changing very fast. Final thoughts, guys, before I wrap up. Main goal is to deliver business value and competitive advantage. Commonly, it is achieved through optimization, increased efficiencies. Lastly, I will touch on identifying saving opportunity, managing risk, all these points which I have touched earlier. My friend, with this, again, I want to thank you. Keep in mind, strategy is a dynamic thing. That's why I kept let's move on. So strategy is not going to be static for the whole thing. So strategy has to be dynamic. You have to change it. My friend, with this, I want to thank you. Any question, 1 or 2, I can take it. Kamila, back to you.
Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Batra. Now we'll take questions from the audience. I have a few questions here in my chat box. I'm going to read that one by one. We'll take the first question. What are the challenges and prospects if we make procurement policy a principles-based one rather than rule-based? That's the first question. If you would like to answer that, Mr.
Excellent.
Batra.
Thank you, Kamila, and for the question which has been raised. Now, the question is, should we make the whole thing strategy on principles or based on the rule base? Rule is a very mechanical process. If I go with the rule, guys, audit comes and asks me, Krishan, have you done bidding for this? Have you got 3 quotation? If you didn't get 3 quotation, did you go for second time or not? That is too mechanical. If I got only 1 or 2 supplier, I can justify I'm getting a value for money. And as it is, if I can say across the board, in all public sectors, even South Africa, I see, EU, I see, OECD, US, everybody's principle is value for money, the first thing. So the value for money is the criteria around. So principles are more important to me. The rules are subsidiary. So rules are supposed to follow the principle. If I can justify based on principle, audit should not question. Yeah.
So I'll take the next question. When you talk about a long-term plan, what's the outline? What's the timeline you're looking at? 2 to 3 years, 5 years, or more?
Okay. Normally, in the private sectors, we do up to 3 years. In the public sectors, where I've seen around to avoid the conflict of interest. Second, in the market, new suppliers are coming around. Competition is increasing. New startups are coming around. So there I will do maximum initially for a year. Then if I see the performance is good, I may extend for second year, but I will not tie my hands permanently for 2 years. I'll do it for a year, then extend for 2 years, goes on that.
Thank you, Mr. Batra. So the last question now, what is the best way to optimize your tail spend, and what is the optimum process to manage it? Thank you.
To optimize the spend. Now I have got, let me give my own example. We were spending around in the UN families, it's around $30 billion spent. And we had around 50,000, 55,000 varieties of goods and services. There are some items which are very close to same family. If I do bidding for each and every item, I'm wasting my time. We used to combine those items and make a category. This is where I started around 80-20 concepts around. So that means if you spend your put 20-80, that means top 20% cover 80% of the values. Again, Pareto analysis. So once I know which are my 20%, then focus on them and then try to optimize. So I think you have to go with the spend and then look at it. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Batra. So now it's time for coffee and a networking break. During your break, do check out the virtual event platform, which has a couple of interesting items like the selfie booth, exhibition area, and the fun zone. We will reconvene after the coffee break at 12:15 p.m. I request all participants to be back on time as the next session commences sharp at 12:15. Thank you so much. Thanks.